Here it is, folks, one of the most notable examples of a toy train layout. It is a layout with a lot of trains, and I do mean a lot. And that is none other than the man from Glenview, Illinois, Stan Roy. This guy perhaps had the world record for running the most trains simultaneously. In the book, he runs up to 27 trains in total on all 3 levels. In this video, he runs up to 32 trains. Later, it was 35, or maybe even 40 trains. But whatever he has on there, he deserved to earn the title to be in the Guinness Book of World Records. When Stan buys a train, he doesn't put them on the shelves for display. Okay, well, maybe other than these trains on the top shelves, but that's beside the point. He doesn't operate them like a real train. He simply runs them because, well, duh. Stan's first toy train set when he was a kid was an American Flyer when he was 9 years old. But he was jealous when the other kids had Lionel trains because he thought they're cooler. Lionel was competing against American Flyer at the time, and the arguments between them were as spicy as the arguments between 2 gaming consoles in a console war. Disappointed, he really wished that he had a Lionel train of his own too, so that he won't feel left out. But then one day, when he saw a Lionel train coming towards the switch, the Lionel 027 turnout, the switch automatically changed track to align the rails so that the train can cross over it without derailing. This intrigued Stan as he saw it in action, not to mention that the third rail in the middle of the tracks is what made Lionel so striking to him. So that's how he preferred Lionel to American Flyer, and he had been pursuing it all of his life. Stan had bought a lot of Lionel trains over the years, regardless of their value. His goal in mind was to buy as many trains as he wanted to create the largest automated toy train layout ever, and he had certainly did. The layout measured 550 square feet, and it was L-shaped. Most of the trains are from the MPC era, with some being from the post-war era. You can see an abundance of colorful trains running together on a triple-decker layout that is a sight to behold. There is the Chessie, the Wabash, the Alton Limited, the Southern Crescent, the 785 Hudson, the Turbine, the Jeep Diesels, the streamlined passenger sets pulled by F3s, and many, many more. This layout is overloaded with trains, and it had a lot of action. 15,000 track, 100 switches, and some cross-track. But some of you might be thinking, weren't the trains gonna collide into each other? I mean, that could possibly lead to a disaster on his layout, and it'll be terrible for Stan. Well, don't fret, Stan Roy is the master of electronic circuitry. He devised a complex relay system that can automatically control several trains on his layout. It allows a single track to run as many as 6 or 7 trains at the same time. They can both stop and start on a track block in repeating sequences, while they keep a safe distance from each other. It also helps that Stan Roy had a background in the electronics field by doing some relay logic. He had an associate's degree from the RCA Electronics School. He worked at IBM to become a computer specialist to fix several pieces of technology, which are mostly dated today. Then when he moved to Chicago, he worked in the audio cassette duplication business. Then finally, once he had the time and money, he decided to use his knowledge of relay logic and other electronics that he had learned so he can apply them to a toy train layout. And this is where it brings us to his automated train layout. At first, he started with one level at the bottom. Then when he wanted to run more and more trains, he added a second level above. And then he added a third level. Each of the levels had track that were a mix of Gargrave's T-rail and stainless steel. The very top level of the layout had stainless steel tubular track that goes around the loop. Stan would probably add a 4th level to the layout sometime in the future. Over 200 relays were installed around the layout. Most of the relays were mounted underneath the table. Some of them were concealed in buildings like schoolhouses, cabins, or drugstores. I may not be an expert on some electronics, but I'll try my best to explain what a relay is. Relays are devices that can be both capacitors and resistors. They get their power supply from an isolated section of track, called a block, from the power source in one of the rails to activate a circuit. When a train rolls over the block, the relay will be energized via voltage so that the circuit can power an electromagnetic coil to control a set of contacts, either open or closed contacts. This meant that accessories such as a crossing gate, gateman, or signal block can only work whenever a train passes by it, meaning the voltage from both the wheels and rails is transferred to that accessory to power it on. The voltage can vary depending on the amount between the train and accessory. Now here's how it works on Stan Roy's layout. First, we'll be talking about how they approach a junction. When a train approaches an insulated track block, whether it was at a switch or cross track, the outside rails were grounded and it energizes the relay. The relay then cuts voltage from the other set of track by the center rail where another train is approaching. This means that one train has to yield to another as it passes over the junction, just like when a car has to yield to another car for having the right of way at an uncontrolled intersection. After the train clears the block, the relay circuit is dropped. The center rail from the other set of track will receive voltage again, and then the other train proceeds. In addition, blocks were also installed to help space out the trains on a single track to prevent rear-end collisions. The train stops at one section of a track after one train had left. Then when that train senses another train pulling into that section of track, it leaves that section of track and another train pulls in. The trains go on and off during this sequence. I like the passenger terminal that he made. That kinda looks like a Union Station, where one of the trains pull in there for their guaranteed connection to let another train to depart, and out on the main line it goes. 6 trains are running on the bottom section of the track. However, if they come close together, it'll make it look like it's one long train, or worse, it could potentially derail some of the cars or engines off the track if that long train is, well, too long. So that's why Stan had come up with a foolproof system by placing magnets on some of the sides of the trains to make contact with the relay switch. He bought the little relay switch with the light on top from Radio Shack. May it rest in peace. When a train with a magnet passes by the relay switch, it energizes it, and the red light on the top blinks. Then the electricity goes from the relay switch to the transistor that activates the sequence relay to automatically flip the switch. One train with a magnet touches the relay, the switch turns left, diverting the train onto the left track. Another train with a magnet touches the relay again, and the switch turns right, diverting the train onto the right track. This way, it'll help make the trains alternate on both tracks to run parallel with each other. The top track above the layout was a loop that can carry up to 5 trains, powered by 2 separate feeds, and a switch that alternates between track every time that train had gone around the loop. Stan Roy's ZW transformer output is AC powered, but the problem for Stan is when he tries to stop or start the train, the other trains will go in fluctuating speeds, either to gradually slow down or to slam right into each other by surging forward. To have the trains run at the same speed on a single track, it needs at least a minimum of about 8 amps from the output, but his ZW's output is only 3 amps, and in turn, the transformer is incapable enough to regulate the speed of the trains. Although Lionel trains are usually AC powered, their motors are actually universal, meaning that they can operate in either AC or DC. So the solution? Stan rectified the ZW output, meaning that he converted the AC output of the transformer from his power supplies to DC that is up to about 30 amps. It aids the conductivity of the electrical current from the amount of voltage that the output produced, and it can easily control the train's speed. Although the only disadvantage is that you couldn't control the sounds of the whistle, bell, nor horn by simply pressing the buttons on the transformer because they're on DC, and they'll be on at the same time automatically. When Stan first started running his trains in the basement, he couldn't have the wheels to make contact with the rails in order to energize the relays properly. So what he did is that he took off all the wheels from all the trains and brought them to a plating store to get them nickel-plated. When the store owner saw Roy carrying all 4,000 train wheels, he was like, "What the fuck?" But then he lets him apply all the wheels with nickel plating on them anyway. It really did took a while, but now the wheels can make better contact with the rails to power the relays easily. The copper-nickel plating had certainly done the trick. Just like most Lionel layouts, accessories play a big part on there. Most of them were separate from the automatic layout by remaining to be controlled manually. Their accessories from the 50s include the 97 coal loader, the 313 bascule bridge, the 264 operating forklift platform, 7 milk cars, the 164 conveyor lumber loader, the 397 coal loader, the 362 barrel loader, the 145 automatic gateman, the 154 crossing signal, and the 456 coal ramp. There are also some Lionel accessories from the 80s, as of this time period when the video was made, like the 2300 operating oil drum loader, which was actually an American Flyer accessory, not Lionel, the 2324 switch tower, and the 2321 operating sawmill. Again, an American Flyer accessory, not Lionel. Roy's layout continues to evolve over the years. In Toy Train Review number 8, he added a Lionel lift bridge to the 4th level of a layout. To make the train stop at the bridge when it's in the upright position, Stan installed a foolproof backup system. So when the train stops, the bridge lowers and the tracks were aligned. Then the train goes over the bridge. But sometimes the backup system doesn't always work the way it was intended. In this outtake, we see the train failing to stop at the raised lift bridge, seeming as if the backup system wasn't turned on properly, and it falls off the track into the black pit below, leaving the caboose to be spared. And as you can see by Stan Roy's reaction, he freaked out over the incident. Several visitors come pay a visit to Stan's layout for years, and they were all thrilled and amazed to see the trains in action. Even a neighbor's visitor who happened to live across the street from Stan's house came to visit the layout. Stan was happy with the guest attendance that he'd been receiving, and for being famous for having quite the world record. He was even featured on the Lionel Roars issue in June of 2006, 20 years after TM went to meet him in Illinois. How about that? And he talks about the layout by how it operates, and his background and education of being an electronics professional. So to make a long story short, Stan Roy's layout is truly unique and mesmerizing to see. And in all honesty, I think he deserved to be a guest on the Johnny Carson show. I think it will be well earned for him. Tomorrow's going to be a 2-parter special that will cover both layouts from the state of Pennsylvania, which was appropriately titled The Pennsylvania Suite.